I might have to yell at my dog periodically.
Understand.
Okay, well, this is weird.
Yeah.
Haven't you done these yet, George?
Not many.
I only join them usually by audio.
Yeah. Okay, well, how about a quick primer before we get going then? When we're doing these meetings remotely like this during the emergency, then when you do votes, you should do them by roll call. And with this small of a group, it's probably pretty easy to figure out who needs to talk when, and I don't think you'll have any issues with that, George. And this agenda is a simple one, so I'm not anticipating any difficulties. And just a reminder, this is a special meeting, which means we have to contain our discussions to what was posted on the agenda. You ready?
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay, well, I guess it's incumbent on myself to call this meeting to order of the Grand Marais Public Utilities Commission on Wednesday, April 15th. And a little bit strange, we're operating here. We're not in person because of the pandemic, of course. And that's going to be a little bit odd. And of course, it's odd for our entire community. And I really commend the city employees and the city staff for helping us through this time.
For sure.
Yeah. Any other comments on where things are at? Okay, fine.
We'll get to it.
We can move on to the agenda and the consent agenda. Anyone want to make a motion to approve that?
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
And do you want to second that? I think Ann seconded it. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So just to run through that quick again.
Yeah.
George, as the chair, if you would just say the name of the person who made the motion and the name of the person who's second, and then ask for a vote individually for a roll call vote.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So Tim made the motion to approve the consent agenda. Ann seconded the motion. And then we'll call the vote and we'll ask for Tim.
Aye.
And Ann.
Aye.
And myself, George, aye. And I believe the motion carries.
Great.
Yeah. I guess the first, Mike, you want to tell us a little bit about the electric rate study proposal?
Yeah. This is really the main purpose of why we are having the meeting now. I mean, it's nice to also give you an update on what's happening, but we can do that via written communications. This is something that we're asking you to take an actual action on, and it's a piece of business that started up before the emergency, but it's one that we want to kind of pick up and keep moving on since it's important to a lot of the ongoing efforts that the PUC is working on. The contractor that's provided this, Dave Berg, is the fellow that gave the class that SIMPA sponsored earlier in the year. And he's the one that I've had the most success in talking to about this. We had a good conversation about what we were looking for, and attached to your packet is his proposal, which I think is very comprehensive and will do exactly what we needed to do. So I just would start with if anybody has any questions about what's included in his proposal.
No, it does look really thorough. I was wondering, and if you've been to a presentation from him?
Yes.
Okay. I was just wondering if it would be worthwhile to talk to a couple of other similar size cities to us that had used him and find out how it went for them.
I think that I've already done that. If you look at the end of his proposal, he has a list of cities. I'm just going to name a couple of them: Austin, Minnesota, Fairmont, Minnesota, Lake City, Minnesota. These might sound familiar because they're all SIMPA cities.
Yeah.
So that SIMPA and a number of SIMPA members have worked with him, and he comes recommended with them.
Great.
And then my own experience in his class, basically he gave a week's worth of class in a one-day setting. So, I mean, there was so much information there. It was really hard to cram it all in, and it is something I thought we probably need to reflect on for a while. So I think he's the right guy, and the price is well within what I was hoping to see from him. So it'd be my recommendation that we move ahead with this guy.
Tim, any thoughts?
Yeah, I read through it, and it looked like he's certainly qualified, has the experience and background, has worked with SIMPA and with other member cities in SIMPA, and if Mike has talked to him and feels comfortable that he's capable of doing the work. To me, it does seem like a reasonable price. It looks like he's in a relatively quick timeline. I think, what was it, 10 weeks or something like that he said it would take to complete.
Yeah.
It seemed like a reasonable timeline in terms of completing the project too, so we're not just hanging on with this for a lengthy time. So no, I'm if Mike is comfortable with his qualifications and his ability to carry this out, then I think we need to get on with it.
And I would agree. I thought it sounded great. Let's proceed. I would volunteer to maybe meet briefly with you and the gentleman when that does happen.
I think that task number 2 on his proposal is a kickoff meeting that it might behoove us to have as a regular PUC meeting and have everybody be able to participate with him in that kickoff meeting. He says he's going to travel here to meet with staff to review goals. I don't know whether that's actually how it's going to happen. Obviously, we don't really know what that looks like these days, but at a minimum, I think that he could meet with us virtually like this to review goals. And we certainly have the ability to send him all the data he's going to request remotely.
Right.
It's that goal setting. I had an initial conversation with him where I talked about goals being to try and get our rate structure out of the really simple way that it's put together now into something with a little more complexity that allows us to use our AMI system, that allows us to build our load management capabilities with our customers, and that allows us to look at some of our climate action plan goals, like potentially more renewables on the system or more EVs on the system, and how to handle that. So that's kind of what I expect that goal setting conversation to sound like, and you'll all get a chance to just kind of weigh in and confirm that with them.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, anyone want to make a motion to approve the rate study proposal?
No, I move that we go ahead with the rate study proposal as outlined in the packet today.
I would second that.
Okay, so Ann has made the motion. Tim has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Ann?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And George? Aye. So the motion carries. Proceed, Mike.
Okay, I'll let him know.
Full steam ahead.
That's right. So now the other thing, I was going to give you just a brief update. And, I've given just a really brief.
Which emergency do we get to hear about?
Well, the emergency is the COVID emergency that the city has declared an emergency for, and the reason that we're meeting remotely. And there hasn't been any real changes for us since the initial written update that I sent out to all the boards, which is basically, we've taken some precautions here. All of our public facilities are closed to the public right now, including City Hall. We're still conducting our business, basically all the business that that we normally conduct, we're able to do without the door open right now. So all of our communications with customers and accepting utility bill payments and helping people with the online paying systems and whatever else we've normally done, we're able to do without the door open right now. Our utility staff, we're all here and we're all well, so that's good. And we've taken some precautions. We do social distancing here in the office, even though we're all still reporting to work. We're just being a lot more cognizant about keeping a little bit of distance from folks. We're having our utility staff travel in separate vehicles whenever that's practical. So that's pretty much every time they're in a vehicle right now. And there's really not a lot more that we think we need to do at the moment. Obviously, there isn't any confirmed cases in the community right now. There are a lot of communities that have taken a lot more strict approach to this because they're dealing with the illness right now. And in some cases, they've actually quarantined some of their staff to make sure that they have a way to continue to operate. And I guess we don't foresee that happening for us right now, but we're staying nimble and thinking about different ways this could go. If you have any questions or concerns about that, I just would encourage you to let me know. And if we need to, we can get together like this and have discussions about things. Then the other update is we've taken a step, a policy level step at a staff level without consulting you, but I'd like to get your blessing on, which is the state asked utilities to extend the cold weather rule. Today, April 15th, is the end of cold weather protection. And the state was hoping that all utilities would extend that cold weather rule for the time being, which means that we wouldn't be doing shutoffs for folks. We would be allowing payment plans. They've also asked us to waive late fees. So for this month's billing, we've already said that we didn't include any late fees, and we're letting folks know if they contact us with any ability to pay issues that we're trying to work things out with them. We're not going to be going out and shutting people off. Whereas this time last year, this is when we would, after a long winter, have tough decisions to make with some of our customers who have fallen behind. So the impact that we've seen so far fiscally isn't a lot bigger than what I would have expected to be in April in terms of how much we're behind on accounts receivable. And it's in the tens of thousands. So, we're in that $30,000-$40,000 range of people behind on their utility bills, which is pretty normal for this time of year. And we'll just stay on top of that and monitor that. If this extends out a few more months and we get into the prime season when people are expecting some income that's not going to be there, then there's a real potential for this to have an impact on us fiscally. And we'll just have to stay on top of that and let you know.
So Mike, I think that's a good idea to extend it. Did you choose a date to extend to, or?
We haven't yet.
Okay.
Without your input, we just, we had bills to process and we didn't include late fees on them. Mm-hmm. But, and I don't know that we can look and see where the end date is yet. So I guess our thought was it's indefinite for now and subject to change. But if you have any ideas about how to communicate that or what we should be looking at, we're open to it.
No, I think that's smart. It's still pretty cold. So.
Could we have that, coincide with the emergency declaration?
We sure can. Yeah, I've thought about that too. You saw maybe that the county board has extended their emergency declaration, and the state has as well. The city's emergency declaration didn't have a fixed end date. It basically says it's in effect until the city council says it isn't. So if we were to have, late fees waived and shutoffs waived until the city council says the emergency's over, and that we could say that.
I mean, that seems to be a reasonable way to just have it coincide with the declaration that the city's already made.
Sure.
So another thing to think about is we're not advertising that this is our position. So some cities are going out and actually being very proactive about saying, we're not going to shut anybody off and we're waiving late fees. I think as a way to build some comfort level in the community. And we haven't done that. We're willing to, we're not keeping it a secret. Obviously, this is a public meeting and this is on the internet and anybody can see it. but we're not trying to encourage people to use us as the first person they're not going to pay. But we're obviously anybody that has any difficulties, we're going to end up communicating with them at some level, and that makes sense to me. But if you'd rather that we were out proactive and telling people that this is our position, we could do that too.
What do you think of that, Tim?
Well, it sounds like Mike was saying that there hasn't been much of a change from what is customary at this time of year. So I'm wondering if that would be necessary, if those numbers start to escalate. Maybe then we do need to get that information out there and be more proactive about it. But you know, my hope is people get their stimulus check, that they would be able to pay utilities or make some of those, you know, decisions about how to spend that money.
Customarily, the cold weather rule would end today, right?
Right.
So I personally like the idea of, you know, making some kind of public announcement somehow, because people may be very limited and concerned about it. So I don't know. I think that is, if that's going to be our policy, we should stand behind it and announce it.
Well, and we could say that the cold weather rule is in effect as long as the city is operating under our emergency declaration.
That'd be fine with me. Does that sound good to you, Ann?
Yep.
And Mike?
Yep. We'll put something together and get the word out. And this is a great day to do it because this is the actual last day.
Perfect.
So,
Yeah, I mean, the statement probably shouldn't say pay all of your bills first and then pay the utility bill. But somewhere in the middle there, Mike, I'm sure you can craft something appropriate.
well, the cold weather rule actually doesn't say we can't shut people off. And we have shut people off in the wintertime. They have some obligation still to create a payment plan and stick to it with us.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we're not looking to do that. Obviously, we don't really ever want to shut anybody off. Our goal is for people to pay their bills, and shutting people off is not a good way to get them to pay their bill every time. So it's kind of a last ditch strategy that we would employ pretty rarely anyway. So I think the communicating it is more about trying to build some kind of you know, good feeling in the community that there is some relief out there for folks that might need it.
Yeah, good. Please do so.
So then the last thing about the emergency that I want to update you on is, I mean, the one thing I think we all need to be pretty comfortable with, if it's possible, is that we're just not going to know anything about what's happening, how it's going to progress, whether what we're doing is working. You know, there's really no way to know these things. And there's a lot of folks that are going to be out there doing predictions, but the SIMPA meeting, which was held just like this last week, they had some information that they shared that suggested that the peak in Minnesota might be in May, and that, you know, there might be then a recovery period after that. And I think that was based on some federal projections. And I was partaking in a meeting today where our local public health folks were looking at state models that suggested the peak is going to be in early July in Minnesota, with, you know, 90 to 95% confidence level that it's sometime between late May and early August. So we don't really know, but I think that we need to at least be open to the possibility that a significant part of our economy is going to be really greatly affected by this situation. And that means, you know, our operations are going to be affected as well. If at a minimum with lower demand for our services, which when we're talking about electricity, we can take a lower demand pretty well and be financially okay. When we're talking about water and sewer, that lower demand is, we feel it pretty quickly. So if we have a July and August without hotels open, you know, our water and sewer funds are definitely going to feel that financially. And then that's just, you know, the demand side of it. Are people going to be able to pay their bill side of it is the other issue. And right now we can say, you know, we're not shutting people off, but you know, we're not the federal government. We don't print money. We don't have a way to pay our bills if people don't pay us. And at some point that becomes much more difficult, and we'll have to be looking at some scenarios that are pretty ugly financially just to be ready for them.
Yeah. Excuse me. No, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me, and I'm glad you're thinking about that, Mike. And yeah, we're gonna have to just see how it goes.
You know, the other thing I was thinking about regarding, or kind of related to that, Mike, and you alluded to it, was with saying that other cities have quarantined some of their workers. Are you thinking about, you probably already have, doing planning so that we always, you know, we have more than one person who's able to do these critical things with water and water treatment?
It's awfully hard for us, and we'll throw electricity in there too, because you know, we can't really do much with water and sewer without our electricity either. We've got 2 qualified line workers, and most of the things that they have to do that are emergency situations, we need both of them to do. So we rely on mutual aid pretty heavily for emergency situations. And this is an emergency that everybody's affected with, and you know, a lot of us are going to be affected potentially at the same time, and so there might be some risk here that we're just not able to manage. Sure. When it comes to water, we've got 3 operators. You know, just in a real draconian sense, if they're not really sick, they can still operate our plants. You know, we can have them be by themselves, and any one of the 3 can operate for a time being our systems without the other 2. It's just that when we're operating right now, we haven't separated them so that they never see each other, in a way to try and, you know, if one of them gets sick right now, if one of them was sick right now, they would likely spread it to the other 2, and it would be too late for us to do anything about it. I think that's why some cities have taken that action, to just be prepared for that. For us, with a crew of 3 on the water side, it's really hard to keep them separate. And even if we did, you know, they're not separate from the community at large. So when it gets here and starts spreading around, we're all going to be potentially exposed to it. We have other resources on the water side as well, and I mean, we always have, but there's a lot of those resources that are preparing themselves to provide mutual aid for communities that are affected by this. So Minnesota Rural Water Association, Minnesota Municipal Utility Association, a lot of private engineering companies are thinking about and making preparations for offering assistance to communities that end up with no operators or not enough. So we do have a lot of resources out there. It's just, you know, there's a lot of risk as well.
Right. Okay.
I imagine on the electric side, we're lucky to have that sort of working relationship with Arrowhead.
It's terrific, and in a circumstance where we've got a pretty isolated problem geographically that we just need more than one crew to deal with, that's a perfectly useful relationship for us to have. When it's a community health crisis, you know, if one of our line workers gets sick, there's a decent chance that they're in the same boat. So, you know, hopefully that, you know, we're not going to be dealing with the sickness here at the same time that the rest of the state is, for instance. And so if we can spread it out that way, then if one of our line workers does get sick, there'll be other cities that we can look to that aren't in northern Minnesota or northeast Minnesota that might be able to assist us if we need it. That's probably a more important strategy for us right now.
Okay. Thanks.
Mike, do you feel like you've got the resources you need, where you're getting the information you need to kind of, I mean, obviously there's not enough answers, but to kind of work through this? Is there anything else that you could use in terms of information or support that you can identify?
No, not information. I mean, my opening statement here is just we're not going to know, and I'm just forcing myself to live in that place that we're not going to know, and that we can't have models that say if we just do this, then this will happen. And so I don't have an expectation that there's a good source of information out there. There's a lot of good support networks right now that are trying to work through this problem together. So I feel pretty good about that. What I've asked other boards, I don't know if I mentioned this when I sent out a note to you all as well, is that the biggest support that staff can get right now is for boards to not be particularly active at a policy level. So, you know, a lot of the things that we've been working on, we're really not going to be able to push forward at the same speed we may have expected to be able to. And so I appreciate that you're willing to do that. And that doesn't mean we're not going to do anything, obviously, because we're still going to try and push ahead on this rate study, and we're going to keep working on the climate action plan. But we're not necessarily going to have Shane on this meeting, for instance, giving you a report, and he's not really having access to our staff right now. And so that's really slowed down quite a bit. And to move forward with this rate study and actually implement any of the ideas is a multi-month effort rather than, you know, hopefully by June we're going to have some great things going on. So that's the support that we need right now, is just some understanding, and I think that I'm getting that from you, so I appreciate that, and we'll let you know if that changes. And I think, you know, getting good feedback from you as well is important. Are we meeting your expectations? Are things happening? Are you also hearing the information that you need to do your jobs as commissioners?
Okay. Well, anything else, Mike? That was a lot.
Yep, it's a lot. That's all I got. Well, how about this? Let's talk about the future schedule quick.
That's easy.
I will try to get the rate study kickoff meeting to coincide with your next regularly scheduled meeting, which is May 6th. So a couple weeks from now. And then if that's going to happen, we will actually hold our May PUC meeting as scheduled, and rather than try to have some mid-May time a month from now. We'll keep you up to posted on that. The next scheduling issue is that the SIMPA meeting in May was going to be here in Grand Marais. It was normally September, but they had a September scheduling issue to come here, and there was another city that had an issue with their May schedule, so we swapped, and now, well, needless to say, they won't be coming here. So the SIMPA meeting in May is going to look just like this, and that's a little disappointing, but, you know, it's what we have to do.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Go ahead and make that happen.
Okay, that's it for us then.
Okay. Tim and Ann, you guys good for now?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, nothing else.
Okay. Well, thank you. We can be adjourned.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.